leads me into what I'm going to talk about here tonight, and that's called making family heirlooms. Because I think of my work, I don't have any children. I never wanted children because I lived in Utah where everybody had 10. And so I said, you know what, I got to stem the tide, and my wife and I decided not to have kids. And that was our choice. But so this goes into an analogy again. My work is my legacy. It's not my children. I'm not holding my work up as great work. I'm just saying I want to make my work the best, whatever that is, and I don't want my work to be thrown away, at least while I'm still alive. And so I want to talk to you about what that means and what you can do to make your work a little bit more, give it some longevity. And there's some, if I get a pen here, I can write down a few techniques and ideas. Thank you.
You might will do enough desk you find a dryer recently.
All right.
You want to try this other mic for a second?
So let's just say this is called making, I'm okay with this one now, making things to last. I've been turning wood, now for 30 some odd years. Believe it or not, it's been my life, it's been my business. Maybe I could have made a better choice in life for sure. But I'm gonna, let's just write down 3 things that are really important for making things that last. And that's wood selection. And the number 2 thing I would say, design. And then that design could encompass base diameter and then just the looks. I'll just write that. And then, of course, this is very important, and we never really talk much about it. But the finish of whatever you put on your work is going to give your work its longevity. And there's some things about finish that go just the opposite of what you might think. For instance, if I made salad bowls, which I do, I want my salad bowls to be durable, so they'd last a long time. Here's a behind the curtain here. This is a nested salad bowl set that I make. This is out of silver maple, and you can see that most of you are probably purveyors of pretty wood. I think that that's a very pretty piece of wood. So in the making things that last, I've thought about the wood selection. So I picked a piece of wood that's real pretty, I think, and this is so I just don't take every piece of wood that just comes down that the wood guys bring by. I say, I do, but I burn it. But I keep the good stuff. So this would be a typical production bowl in my shop. And then I think about the design. Well, the design isn't much for a salad bowl because there's really only so much you can do in a crescent shape like this. But I put a little ridge there that kind of gives it a signature that says that I made it. So between the base and the top, there's only so much you can do, but you should probably do something there to make it look original, okay? And then the design here, base diameter. If I want my work to be used, I'm very cognizant of what that diameter is, because if it's too small, it's more apt not to be used, because it tips over all the time and people just put it in a cabinet somewhere, and it's just like going to a restaurant and sitting at a table where the table isn't level, and you want to get a matchbox to kind of level things up. A good salad bowl is very stable to use. So I'm thinking about that while I'm working. But then what's really going to give this piece its longevity is its finish. And let's think about that. The opposite of what you might think. The most durable finish for a woodworker like ourselves out here, probably that we could buy, is polyurethane. There's some acrylics, or epoxies and things like that. If I wanted to put that on this piece, that would be nice. However, you'd have to know that when that finish breaks down, that whoever owns that bowl probably won't have the skill to repair that finish, because those finishes not only being very durable, but are incredibly difficult to repair. So you might as well just get some stripper out, strip it, and then reapply the whole thing. Not many people that you'll ever give this bowl will ever have the skill to put that finish. So what do I think the best finish for a salad bowl is? You'll never guess. No finish. Okay? Because if you like what you see today, it's not shiny, There's no gloss there, nothing. But if you like what you see today, this is what you get 20, 30 years from now. And you tell whoever gets this, whether it's your daughter, your neighbor, or somebody you sold it to, you know, just go get some mineral oil and wipe it on occasionally, and it looks brand new again. If you're happy with that, good to go. And you know, the problem with that type of finish is, don't you? It's going to get dings on it. It's going to get scratches. It's going to get stained. Well, guess what? Wood's not for you if that's the case. But every cut and stain in that bowl, for me, is like a wrinkle on a face. It's life, and you got to get over it. It's just all it is. That doesn't bother me at all. So I'll pass this around. This actually does have a finish on it, and it's walnut oil, which I think is a pretty decent finish next to no finish, because the general public, my galleries especially, don't want a bowl with no finish on it, because if people touch it, it's going to get fingerprints on it. So mineral oil, walnut oil, some type of vegetable oil might be better than no finish. And everybody and their brother can reapply walnut oil or mineral oil. Okay, my Aunt Betty, who's 99, can actually, she's looking for a husband, if you know anybody. This will be her 6th. We call her the Black Widow. She can apply mineral oil on the bowls that I give her, because she has a couple shots in the morning, a couple shots in the evening. I said, wipe a little bit of that mineral oil on the bowl too. Some people laughed at it. Okay, so making things that last. And I'm just pass some items around. I'll tip this over when I pass it around, because it's got my morning's coffee in there tomorrow. I brought it right out of the kitchen. This is a kitchen container that's in my house. I think you could probably agree with me that's a pretty piece of wood. So I thought about the wood selection. Good. Part of the wood selection is not only the beauty of the wood, it's utility. For instance, that salad bowl has been made out of silver maple. Most acers, most maple varieties of trees are excellent for utility because they're durable. You could drop that bowl, and don't, but go ahead and buy it and then let's But most woods, some woods just can't take the shock. So let's just say I saw Phil brought in a beautiful piece of locust burl. Locust is a pseudo-acacia wood, and it's probably not going to make a nice salad bowl. It'll make a beautiful salad bowl, but it won't make a very durable salad bowl, even though the wood is seriously hard. The characteristics of that hard wood make it so it can't take shock absorption. Think about whatever you make, the wood is important to the longevity of what you're making. So if you're making a peppermill, you don't really have to think about it, because peppermills are generally solid wood. But a salad bowl might have to take some shock absorption over time. And maples, any soft hardwood is a good wood for a salad bowl. This is a piece of cottonwood, and it's a very soft hardwood, and it takes great shock absorption. It actually would make a great salad bowl. But one more important reason of why I'm holding this up here is this piece has some special interest to it. So not only do I make the work out of really pretty wood and make it what I think is a good design, I don't know that, that's my opinion, but I've also added a special little item here, and that's the lid. That's a contrasting knob. It's a piece of African blackwood. Most people would have to be told that that's blackwood, but that's the real color of that wood. And it's a special piece of wood, but it's also very crafty. It's a 3-piece set of items here. It's a knob, it's a washer, and it's a screw, or a bolt, okay? And these have all been hand threaded together. So this will probably help your work to have a little bit of interest to it. So whoever gets this in the future, they're not going to be so easily getting it to the dumpster, because they go, this is really cool. Look, somebody took some time here. Okay, so that's what I'm thinking. And I've showed you a couple items now. There's tons of items, whatever you're making, that can create interest. And I'm just showing you a few things. So don't tip that over. Let me show you a couple other items. This is a cookie jar for the kitchen. This is a sugar bowl, and they're part of a set. Okay, so that adds special interest too. I wouldn't suggest making these unless you have like really rich customers, because there's a lot of work in this, and you're going to want a lot of money for them, believe it or not. So something to think about. I was actually looking for another item here. oh, there it is. Here's my version of a Peppermill. Not a whole lot of difference between a lot of the ones that are out here. But guess what? In real life there is. If you open this up, if you like pepper like I do, and I put like a 1/4-inch layer on everything to eat, this is hollow. And so I despise loading these things up. So I load this up maybe once a year, and this has 7 times the volume of a Peppermill of similar look. So I'll pass that around. But that gives your work special interest, doesn't it? Because you can tell it's been crafted a little bit more than just throwing a drill rod through the center of this. Okay, that's my version of a Peppermill. A good Peppermill finish, going on our number 3 item there. I would think polyurethane is a great finish. This piece has about 4 coats of polyurethane. So I thin like the 1-hour Minwax polyurethane, and while it's on the lathe, I just put a coat all right on it, right there. Come back an hour later, scuff it all up with 4/0 steel wool. Do it again. Do that 4 times. I'm good to go, and I have my Peppermill. And now I'm confident that 4 coats would last probably somewhere near my death. It's going to last a long time. And even if it doesn't, the acids from your hand are going to polish up that wood fairly good. You won't even notice that the finish is broken down that much. So everybody going with me here? What about questions? Anybody? Yes?
Why don't you use Mahoney's oil?
Well, I did use that on the salad bowl, but it's probably not good for the Peppermill.
Yeah.
Okay, just because I lump finishes into 2 categories: films and penetrating oils. And the films are lacquers, varnishes, shellacs, waxes, all those. And then the penetrating oils are mineral oil, linseed oil, Danish oil, walnut oil, tongue oil, all those. Well, the penetrating oil finishes I leave for my utilitarian work, and the film finishes I leave for my artwork, whatever my artwork is. Stuff that doesn't have to be washed. Because if the film finishes require skill to apply and to repair. I don't want my customers to ever have to worry about repairing the finish. I just want them to dust the work. Okay, so artwork gets film finish, utility work gets penetrating oil type finishes. More questions on that? Because we could talk all night about it. Hey, Rick.
You said dust with what? Pledge?
Yeah, lemon pledge is great if they still sell it, but that would be good because that's just paraffin wax with a propellant in it, and that works fine. I'd rather you just dust with maybe a wet sponge. Yeah, I would think on my polyurethane items, anything with film. I wouldn't want that for some items penetrating oil wise. I'd rather have you wash it with soapy water. My salad bowls are great for soapy water. I was going to tell you, this is not a piece of mine, but I just acquired this. This is some of my competition's work. This is Glenn Lucas's work from Ireland. Take a look at that. I think it's a beautiful bowl. That bowl is going to get used in my kitchen, and already has been. It was in my kitchen for a week until I brought it here, and I'm pretty smitten with the piece. I think Glenn has followed a lot of the rules already. And Glenn, like myself, he's a young man. He doesn't. I'm not a young man, but he's a younger man. He's thinking about where his work's going to be 50 years from now, and he's doing the right things to make that happen. This is just another, I think, is a bowl that is not well designed, but still is a very nice piece to look at. I'll pass that around. Why isn't it well designed? The parameters of the design in this piece don't follow a lot of scale. The diameter here is about 14 inches, and the height is 9. If you drew that on a square on a board, I would typically never design anything in those parameters. I would be more, for a salad bowl, be more like 12 by 5 at the most. But this works. So I would always throw out the rules sometimes, and it works too. But rarely. But when it does, it's good. Russ.
You talk about those design ideas, those design dimensions. Where are those found? You got a location for them, or?
They're actually in your pocket.
Okay.
Everybody's got one. That's a good design parameter. No, don't laugh at it. Just draw that up into a larger scale, and that's a good design. However, I like to design it out of cubes, and we don't put cubes or squares in our pockets. But that's a good design parameter. It's a little tall for salad bowls, but for hollow forms, that's pretty nice. That's your golden means idea right there. Just break that up into thirds. Okay, that's better. Yeah, as long as my nose doesn't catch yet. Anyway, what else were we talking about there? Yes.
One bowl that you said, the design wasn't quite right. In a way, though, it shows off the grain of wood better.
Yeah, I pretty much just used the chunk of wood without cutting it. Typically, knowing me, I would have taken this same bowl and ran it through the bandsaw before I turned it, and then I'd have two bowls instead of one. But I noticed that the wood was something special, so I thought, you know what, let's just draw this up, and if I could put a band of something here, that would throw people's eyes off of the height of the piece. A piece like this, by the way, is not real easy to use because of its height, because you have to dig in to get it. But it does make a nice, fancy Caesar salad bowl for sure.
Finish like water lux, which I think is tung oil and something.
A finish like water lux, yeah.
Is that a food safe thing, or what's the story on food safe?
Okay, water lux is, I think it's, the company is now calling it a varnish. Anybody want to correct me on that? Water lux is probably the best product you can buy, that we can personally buy, and I'm going to tell you it's 72% mineral spirits. So it doesn't have a whole lot of solids in it. Formbees is more like 80% mineral spirits. So the products get really thinned down. Water lux is a food safe finish if the odor is gone. And it's a varnish, so it's a very difficult finish to apply, and it's a very difficult finish to repair. I use it. Peppermill would be great for water lux. Let's consider why we put anything on our work. Well, we were talking about the longevity of our work. I'm going to say if it was my list to make, you can make whatever list you want to make. I'm going to say the Mike Mahoney's number one, it would be marketability. Because I have to sell my work. So I really worry about how the marketplace views my work, okay? Because, you're wood turners. You're not going to be real impressed with my finishes because you love wood, unlike my customers who have to be sold as to what it is to tell them what it is. So I'd like a little extra shine on my work because the general public is attracted to shine, okay? So that I would think about using this finish if I needed to make a living in my work. And then my number two is toxicity. Okay, well, I don't care where that is for you. You'd make that up for your mind. How about repairability? That's my number three. And that's a close second too. Repair. And then 4, skill. How much skill does it take? And then cost. And there's probably, this list can go on and on and on. Okay? But let's just use those 5 as whatever you make. Well, you make bottle stoppers. Bottle stoppers would be good. What would be a good finish for bottle stoppers? And let's just say you're doing bottle stoppers for sale. I would automatically, if I go and it's for sale, I would go over to the films because that's going to be the marketable shine. I need the shine on my work. So the bottle stopper needs shine. Well, let's just say I went over and said I can get an easily piece of my bottle stopper to shine up really nice with a shellac, because shellac is incredibly easy to apply. So there's the skill set there, ease of use. So we can say skill is ease. So that fits that bill. Where does shellac fall off on the toxicity? Not that bad. So that's not bad. Repairable, pretty repairable as well, kind of. Cost is good. Repair. Where do I want to go? Oh, durability. Duh, we need durability here. Well, I'm thinking that a bottle stopper is going to get pushed on a bottle and then pulled off regularly. Not at our house. I don't even know if there's one in the house. No. So it's going to get applied, touched a lot, and maybe even have to get washed. Shellac has no durability, so the shellac, that gloss, is going to go away real quick. So maybe not a good choice. A better choice might be, I'm thinking poly. I know some people in this room make bottle stoppers. What's a good finish? CA glue sounds really good, because that's going to fall under your acrylics, and those are very durable finishes. So I'm thinking that's good. There's a finish just on the marketable side of things. There's a finish out there made by Mylands. It's called a friction polish, and it's sold for Peppermills, bottle stoppers, pens, and I'm here to tell you it's probably one of the fewer finishes I'd never put on one of those objects. But it's marketed to wood turners for that reason. You got to know it's shellac, and it's not going to go very far. So think about the longevity of that bottle stopper. You sold the bottle stopper down at the craft show. They go home and used it. They see you again next year, and they say, you know, that bottle stopper crapped out the second time we used it. And you, bring it back and I'll repair it. Well, you do that. You don't want to repair your work in that scenario. Okay, so you make bottle stoppers. Well, I already talked about the salad bowl. What do I want to use? I want to be over here with my salad bowls, because when I sell my salad bowls, I want the customer to go home and be able to repair that finish over time and be able to wash that bowl. Yeah, polys are very durable, but polys will break down over time, and then my customer will never have the skill set to be able to reapply the mineral oil, okay, or the poly. What else can we go here? Toxicity. Why is toxicity important to me as compared to somebody who doesn't work around these finishes every day? Some of these finishes are incredibly toxic. I think of these as cigarettes, and if I'm around them long enough, they're going to make me sick. That's because I'm around them every day. You take the lid off of that, and if you take a hit of it, it's not a very pleasant experience, and it'll make you really sick. It'll harm some. All these are very carcinogenic. These not so much. They could be depending on what they're blended with. So toxicity is important. Repairability, of course. Skill, cost can be important. So you see where I'm going with finishes.
All the pieces that have gone by, they're all finished, look very nice, and then you look at the bottom. Every one of them, the signature is different. What's the deal on the signatures?
My signatures are different?
On blends too, every one of them is different. So what would be a good idea for a lasting finish to go along with your list? Signature to go along with your list, not counting laser engraving.
Well, I'm not sure where you're going there, Rich.
Well, are you using it permanent?
Oh, no, I have to burn. I burn it all in. I use a Cub burner, one of those really cheap burners. Yeah, you have to burn it. Otherwise, it's erased, and then nobody knows who makes it. That's in this country, in like a lot of places, craft is really appreciated, and we really appreciate it if you sign it. I always, when I go to places where it isn't signed, I go, "Guy, you should really sign this," because I want a piece of whatever you're making here, and by your signature really adds to it. But yeah, no, you got to burn it in, and if you don't, let's say you use a pen, you've got to cover that with a membrane finish of some sort, a film finish. Yep, and lacquers will wear off, but. So varnishes now. I'm just going to make a finished platter here tonight. Maybe something like this. I'm pretty fond of platters. I've never really done them commercially. This is a quarter-sawn piece of white oak. Has walnut oil on it. Very dull finish, but this is an item that could really be used in the kitchen and bounced around. And pass that around if you don't mind. I'll make something like that. And again, we're going to take into consideration the prettiness of the wood, the base diameter. For instance, it's something to think about if you know what you're making. Let's just say you're making a platter or a bowl or a tray or a plate. Or a Peppermill. This is something really important for a Peppermill, is how easy it is to use. So if I pick up this Peppermill, and I can't get my hand around it, I can't spin it, and you've got to think about who's in your house using this as well. My wife's hands are a lot smaller. I don't need that one. But I've made a lot of peppermills that a lot of people can't get their hands over, and it really detracts from their usefulness. Just as this item right here, just looking at this, these little ridges here are nice because they help hold on to the piece. So in my piece here, I think a lot has gone on to the thought process because I can strangle that thing and get a good grip on it, and so it never falls out of your hand. So something to think about, because I see a lot of peppermills that are really difficult to handle. But if I was going to make a bowl, let's just talk about the base diameters. So base diameters, you got me, Pat? Mm-hmm. Pat. Butt diameters. So if I was going to make a bowl, minimum base diameter for a bowl would be, if I want it to be used, is 1/3 of the total diameter of the piece. So if you made a 10-inch bowl with a 2-inch base, you've got to know that it's just going to be tippy all the time. It's pretty because smaller bases tend to have nicer lines because there's a lot more to design with, because the line on the profile is a lot longer with a smaller base. So 1/3. But if I'm making a platters typically have 50 to 75% bases. If I'm making a plate or a tray, those are probably 80 to 90% base. And why is that? Well, if you're going to carve your dinner on a dinner plate, it better have a large base on it because you don't want it to tip. So tonight we'll make something with a platter between 50 and 75% base. I'll go into that while we work, and let's just say I will draw what I make. This is something funny that happened the other day too. We were talking about this. What did I do with the eraser? Right there in front of me. I'm just gonna. This is the profile of what I'll make. This is the bottom side of the platter, and then there's the base, and I'll chuck up with a reverse tenon, a very small one. So this is the profile of the platter. It's a long OG curve with a 50 to 75% base, so very substantial base. And since we were in Utah last week, we had all our friends from England, because we draw hugely from England for wood turning at Utah, because England probably has one of the longest wood turning histories in the history of humanity. But the English make the best platters. They always have. And it's because they make platters with this super long OG curve, and they put a little tiny base right there, and then the piece goes up. Well, I've always argued with the Englishmen that I meet. I go, you make the prettiest platters. Now I know why you do it. Because if you've ever had a meal in England, you wouldn't mind if the food falls out of the plate. It's true. And they always agree. But yeah, you're making a wall hanging in that scenario. But you can always make a beautiful item with a small base because there's this long, sweeping OG curve. I kid with my English friends on that because I don't know. Every time I'm at England, if you've ever had a 9-course meal and all 9 pieces of food tasted the same. It's not true. I had my best meal in England once. About 30,000 feet at Delta Airlines. It was over the top of England.